What are macronutrients? What are fats, protein, carbs? What do they do and where do they come from? We're going to answer all that right now here on Smartest in the Gym. No secrets, just science. Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric Cullen Balsamo here at Smartest in the Gym, a channel dedicated to providing you with accurate, unbiased, and practical information to help you reach your fitness goals. If you ever thought that understanding macronutrients could help you gain muscle, lose fat, or get stronger, you were right. Macronutrients get a chapter in every nutrition certification and textbook. Sometimes each of the three get their own. It's impossible to fully understand a diet without first understanding macronutrients. You can't go keto without knowing where to get your fats or how to avoid your carbs. If you're a vegan, you should understand protein in order to find plant sources that suit your needs. You might understand that you need to eat carbs and protein post-workout, but do you know why? And do you know what types? Understanding the details of macronutrients is not necessary to live a healthy life. However, it does give you a huge advantage in eating to support your goals. Macronutrient manipulation is at the center of most fitness professionals' diets, such as powerlifters and bodybuilders. So if you want to get bigger, stronger, leaner, or just know what the hell you're eating, let's get into it. Macronutrients are nutrients that your body needs in large amounts. This, of course, makes micronutrients nutrients your body needs in smaller amounts. Macros are measured in grams in our diets and provide us with energy in the form of calories. There are three macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fat. Protein supplies us with 4 calories per gram, as do carbohydrates. However, fat provides us with 9 calories per gram, making it the most energy dense of all the macronutrients. Interestingly, alcohol supplies us with 7 calories per gram, but it's not considered a macronutrient because we don't need it in large amounts or at all, or at least not most of us. Water is a nutrient that we need in large amounts, but it doesn't supply us with calories, and therefore it's not considered a macronutrient either. So all of the macros are required in large amounts and they provide our body with energy. However, once they're in our body, they start acting a lot differently. Each has their own function, storage capacity, and way that they provide energy. Let's look at each individually. Protein isn't like the other macronutrients in that we can't store it effectively. Therefore, if we eat too much protein, it'll only get excreted. We won't just gain muscle mass without a stimulus, such as resistance training. Protein is also a protected nutrient, which means that while it can be used for energy when necessary, it's more often saved for more essential functions. Protein plays a structural component in all of our body's tissues, particularly our muscle. It's also involved in creating our enzymes, hormones, and even our DNA. Because protein has all of these important functions, it is most often spared from energy transfer and we use fat or carbs instead. Because our body's bad at storing protein, we need to consume it at regular intervals. But where do we get it? Let's go check the kitchen. Alright guys, so the easiest place to get your protein is from animal meats, including fish. So this would include things like pork, steak, and chicken. Now, meat is muscle tissue, therefore it is almost entirely protein. But of course, this is going to have some amount of fat in it depending on your source. There are lean meats such as skinless poultry breast, 95% lean ground beef, and white fish. However, there are fattier versions of these meats such as skin-on poultry, ribeye steak, and fatty fish such as salmon. White lines in your meat, skin on your poultry, and oil on your fish is going to be a good indicator of how much fat your protein source has. Other animal sources of protein include eggs and dairy. Now, with eggs, the egg white is the primary source of the protein, while the yolk is the source of all of the fat. In regards to dairy, they usually come with some of the other macronutrients involved. For instance, milk has lactose in it, which is a sugar, which is therefore a carb. Cheese almost always has fat in it. Other dairy products such as butter have no protein in it and are almost entirely fat. However, there are very high quality protein sources in the dairy food group, including non-fat Greek yogurt and my personal favorite, whey protein, which is almost entirely protein. Plant sources of protein include other powders such as quinoa, soy, and pea proteins, other soy products such as tofu, and most notably from plant foods, legumes. Now, you could also add up a little bit of protein throughout the day from other food groups such as grains, which has a little bit of protein along with carbohydrates, or nuts, which has a little bit of protein along with fat. Now, as you eat these foods on the side of full protein sources, such as the animal meats, the dairy, and the eggs, it can add up throughout the day. For vegetarians and vegans, this is the primary thing that you'll be focusing on throughout the day to make sure you get enough protein. Next up, we have carbohydrates, and just like protein, they provide 4 calories per gram. Unlike protein, however, this is their primary function to provide energy. Also, unlike protein, we're actually pretty efficient at storing carbohydrates when we eat too many. It's actually pretty simple. So carbohydrates are broken down into glucose and other sugar molecules you don't need to know about right now. Glucose is used for energy by the body and circulates in our bloodstream. When our blood glucose gets too high, our body will start storing glucose as glycogen, which is just a bundle of glucose found in our muscle cells and liver tissue. That glycogen will then maintain our blood glucose levels throughout the day and in between meals, adding to it when it gets low and adding to the glycogen whenever it gets too high. But there is a limited amount of supply of our glycogen storage, and therefore when we keep on eating carbohydrates and the storage is already full, our body will turn to mechanisms that turn carbohydrates into body fat for further storage. Glycogen also serves as a quick source of energy for the body. We're better at breaking down glycogen quickly for energy than we are at breaking down body fat, which makes high-intensity activity, which requires a lot of energy very quickly, dependent on carbohydrate stores in order to perform. This makes it important to consume carbohydrates before, during, and or after your workouts if you want high performance and high intensity. However, it is also very important to eat carbohydrates throughout the entire day incrementally in order to avoid peaks and valleys in your blood sugar and avoid the storage of body fat. But where do we get carbohydrates from? So all carbohydrates are made up of sugars, therefore everything that has sugar in it will provide carbohydrates. This includes all of your sweets, such as brownies and snacks, sodas, but also things that have added sugar to it, such as your coffee or things like ketchup. Now, whole foods also sometimes have sugar in it, such as dairy, which has lactose, and fruits, which have fructose, both of which are sugar molecules. So this means that sugar is not always bad for you. You just want to eat it from sources that also have nutrients. As mentioned before, glucose is the primary sugar molecule that our body uses for energy. In our diet, we get a lot of glucose from a molecule called starch, which is a complex carbohydrate made up of a long string of glucose molecules. Starch can be found most readily in grains, such as pasta, quinoa, breads, and things such as that, certain types of fruits, and starchy vegetables such as legumes and potatoes. Finally, we have fiber as the last type of carbohydrate that you encounter in your daily diet. Now, fiber doesn't provide us with energy because our body cannot break it down and turn it into energy. However, it does play a couple of different functions. Most notably, it is metabolized in our gut bacteria by our microbiome, and it is used as roughage in our stool to keep things moving in our GI tract. Fiber can be found in a variety of plant foods such as grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. Finally, we get to fats, which is the most energy-dense macronutrient that we consume. Fats get a bad rap because they share the name with the flabby stuff that we carry on our body, but it is also an essential nutrient for function, structure, and energy. In terms of structure, our body fat serves a purpose. While too much is definitely bad, we need a minimal amount for insulation and padding of our soft tissues and our organs. This is also where fat-soluble vitamins are stored, which require dietary fat in order to be metabolized. Even at the cellular level, fatty acids make up the primary component of all of our cell membranes. Body fat is also our main storage point for energy. We hold tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of calories in our body fat, which can last us for weeks and possibly even months under starvation circumstances. Fatty acids circulate in our blood for energy and are regulated by the breakdown and storage of body fat, similarly to how our body treats glucose in regards to storage as glycogen. However, our body is a lot quicker at breaking down glycogen for energy than we are breaking down fat for energy. So even though we have many tens of times more calories in fat than we do in carbohydrates, our body cannot rely on the fat storage for high-intensity activity, which requires a lot of energy quite quickly. This is one reason why a high-fat diet and a high-carb diet that have the same amount of calories might lead to different results with the same training program. Fats are also involved in a wide variety of functions, from hormones to immune function to blood clotting. But where exactly do we get our fats from? So fats really come in a variety of forms and are found across all of the food groups. The easiest to remember, though, is going to be your oils and your butters, which are almost entirely fat, except for nut and seed butters, which will also carry carbs and protein along with it. Next up, we'll have animal foods such as fatty meats like a ribeye steak, the yolks in things like eggs, and dairy products such as cheese and not fat-reduced milk products. These are going to have a higher proportion of saturated fat. Now, plant sources of fat will have a higher proportion of unsaturated fat. There are trace amounts in things such as grains, fruits, and vegetables. But most notably, we're going to have our seeds and nuts, which have a high amount of fat. and a couple of outliers such as avocados and olives. So while the types and the timing of the macronutrients is extremely important for reaching your goals as well, we saved all that information for later videos in this playlist on protein, fat, and carbs individually. If you like this video, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more accurate and practical fitness information. If you want to get into more depth on macronutrients, make sure you check out the rest of this playlist, Fitness Facts Macronutrients. However, if you feel like this was enough information on the macros today and you want to learn more about the foods that you'll actually be eating to get them, I highly suggest checking out our next video on the food groups.